Like many of you, when the initial COVID lockdowns came, I found myself at home with a lot of time on my hands. Now, so no one's scandalized, I wasn't a priest yet. I was at the seminary and sent home to live with my mom, and I turned, like many of you did as well, turned to a new project, a new hobby. For me, it was a landscaping project. I really wanted to fix that patch on my mother's lawn that was ripped up from construction equipment. And so I sowed seeds. And because, like I said, I had a lot of time on my hands, I was out there every morning after my coffee, watering with a hose carefully, every square inch, watching and waiting impatiently for the grass to finally take. After 3 weeks, it eventually took, but it was a bit of a surreal experience, I found, for me at least, because I knew that I was doing everything right, and yet it was still a slow process, to the point where I wasn't sure about myself anymore. Did I need to sow again? Is it going to take? What's wrong? In life, there are many situations where time simply has to pass. No matter how used to we might have become to instant gratification, things being a click away, the reality remains that a handwritten letter, for example, still needs time to travel. That a good wine still needs time to ferment. That a wound still needs time to heal. That a friendship still needs time to grow. That love still needs time to mature and to bear fruit. Our relationship with God is not different than that. In a fast-paced Amazon Prime world, it's easy to forget that the instantaneous is not necessarily better, and that what lasts and what bears most fruit in life often has to take time to grow. I'm sure that it does not come as a surprise to you that God is not really working in the realm of instant gratification. Now, sure, God is all-powerful, all-capable, able to do everything and anything. And he can work instantly, and he has worked instantly, but that's not his usual way to do things. In our scriptures today, we're presented with a sort of modus operandi, the usual way that God works, and how much God acts often in the unseen, in the subtle, in the small, over a period of time. And yet it still requires us to do our part in it, us to still have faith and to trust and to go along with the Lord in that time. Jesus uses two parables in our gospel to explain how it is that God works, how it is that God establishes his relationship in us, his relationship with us. In other words, Jesus is trying to help us understand how it is that God helps us to progress in holiness, how God helps us to progress in our life of friendship with him. In the first parable, the parable of that seed planted by the farmer, we see that farmer over time, day in, day out, week in, week out, over a period of months, after sowing the seeds, that seed finally takes ground and bears fruit. But despite needing that time, that farmer still needs to care for that seed. That farmer still needs to be there for that seed. The farmer still needs to plant, to water, to harvest, but that the growth is in God's hands. In the second parable, we see how insignificant and unseen the beginnings is of a seed and how it grows and to flourish to a majestic tree. And likewise, we could say, how small and insignificant sometimes is the presence of God in our life grows over time, flourishes, to become something incredible, to us to live acts and a life of incredible holiness and having an impact around us, to the people that are around us. But it all started with something small, something insignificant, unseen. Our Lord reminds us that while we might not see the obvious, while things might not be seen at first, the daily care of our spiritual life in the little things is vital for our friendship with God, for our life of friendship with Him, and for us to bear fruits of holiness to those around us. So it's with this in mind that I want to turn to two practical principles related to these parables, one for each parable. Something for us to apply in our life, in our spiritual life. From the first parable, the first principle would be that for growth to happen, just like for you, whenever you plant that seed in the garden, for growth in your spiritual life to happen, it needs time, and it does need a certain amount of care. Our relationship with the Lord, our friendship with Jesus, requires time and care. You will grow spiritually in time, provided that there's the daily watering of prayer, taking care that happens, provided that there's the weekly nourishment of the bread of life, of the Eucharist, provided that, yes, there's the occasional weeding of confession. Sometimes it would be well to have the fertilizer boost of a good spiritual book to help form us. And last but certainly not least, to have the sturdy support of good and like-minded friends. With this, in time, we grow spiritually. And the second principle based on that second parable is that as you grow in your life, as you mature in your spiritual life, as you come to know the Lord more and more in your own life, look for ways to share the fruits of that growth with others. We don't grow for our own sake. It's certainly nice to have a good relationship with the Lord, but it's not meant to be kept for ourselves. That's the essence of the parable of the mustard seed, isn't it? That while it starts small, it grows to become a great shrub, a great tree where birds find shelter and find shade. May we be people who are on the lookout for those around us who need to be taken in, so to speak. Right? Not necessarily physically, but taken in prayerfully in our heart, by our prayers. People that need to be offered a bit of shade because life is harsh sometimes. May we be on the lookout for people like that around us, and they are all around us. In the daily small things that we can do for that, the better. We're not Christians for our own sake. We're Christians for others as well. Right? There's others around us that need to encounter the Lord, His closeness that we experience as well. May we be people then who do take the necessary care to grow in our spiritual life, in our friendship with Jesus Christ. But as well that as we grow, may our families, may our homes, may this parish be a place where others come to encounter the Lord, where they come to encounter Him and encounter that God's kingdom is really God's love present in our midst, where they might come to encounter that the refuge that they seek is in fact God's love, that is in your midst, God's love that is in our midst, God's love that is in the midst of your families.